Like, I think there's no one out there who's tried more Parawings than you.
I have used a lot now.
Have you tried the ENSIS?
Yes.
BRM?
Yes.
Flow?
Yes.
North? Ozone? Duotone?
Born, the 777, the Nash Morph as well.
Oh, the Morph.
F1 Plume.
Okay. What does it do well, and why should you get it?
It's the wingtips do fold in slightly when it's overpowered. It's much more stable, and it's silent going upwind. Packs down really well. It turns really well.
I think once they experience a downwind run on an 80 liter board with an 800 foil and nothing in your hands,
I couldn't believe I was doing it, you know. But this continued for like an hour,
yes.
And I just like, it was just unbelievable.
Welcome to the Lab Rat Foiler podcast. My name is Dan, and today we have Gavin Blake with us. YouTube sensation, does the reviews about all the Parawings out there. But above all, Gav is running this whole YouTube channel for a charity, the Bear Cottage, which we were going to get into before we start talking about Parawinging. But welcome to the podcast, Gav.
Thank you for having me, mate. I really appreciate it. It's just awesome to chat to another Parawing frother. I love it.
Yeah. And we were talking a little bit before the podcast. Gav recently recorded another podcast with the Generic Foiling crew. So go on and check that out because there's a lot of information there as well. We're going to try to touch on some stuff that hasn't been spoken about in that podcast. But we have a very similar background, Gav. We both work in emergency services, and we were just talking before the podcast, very similar life. And you're running all your YouTube efforts for this charity, and you have an amazing raffle coming up. Is that right?
That's it, mate. Yeah. So, yes, firstly, thank you for giving me the opportunity to do this and plug it. I know it's not exactly what everybody wants to hear, but it's really important to me. It's important to a lot of my friends we get involved in it. So the long and short of it is that through my work, we work very closely with a charity called Bear Cottage, and it's a children's hospice based here in Sydney, and they provide 24-hour palliative care for pediatrics, essentially kids with terminal illnesses of no fault of their own. It's a horrible thing to say, but it's a place that they go to die, and it is heart-wrenching when you go there. And through our work, we unfortunately have a lot of interaction with that. So we bring a lot of children from all over the state into this facility, and it's down the road from where I live in Manly, in a beautiful, beautiful setting. And they not only look after the children, but it's the family support. So interestingly, there's a really high suicide rate in fathers as a result of, which is completely understandable. And so they have a network that helps and supports that, and they have reduced that significantly since they've opened this. I think it's been running for about 7 or 8 years now. But anyway, it's government funded, but they are always resource shy. Like they always need more, and it's the angels, the nurses that actually do the work on the ground that just, they don't get paid anywhere near as much as they need to. And so, the whole point of this is really just to ease a bit of pain. We're not gonna, I'm not generating millions, as you can imagine. It's a bit of a niche here, but it's enough, it makes a difference. And so that's the whole purpose behind this, the channel, and also the auction. So the auction itself, Code Foils, Josh Koo, legend. I think he came. I saw the interview actually. Yeah, so he's a legend. He's such a good guy, and it was his idea. It was his brainchild. He said, "Look, why don't we give a foil?" In fact, actually, this foil just.
Ooh,
here.
Let's have a look.
Yeah, fair. Let me just bend it down. So it's a your code, aren't you?
Yeah, I write code.
Yeah. So this is a 980S.
Nice.
So it's epic. So we've got a medium fuse on it.
Beautiful.
85 mast, the 142 AR tail. It's beautiful. It's one of my favorite foils. Like
100%.
It's really versatile, and interestingly for Parawinging, it's amazing. So like I use it in bay runs like all the time because
it's my go-to as well.
Turns well. It's just epic.
Yeah.
Anyway, so back to the course. So we're auctioning this off on YouTube. In fact, I'm releasing the video on Saturday the 10th. So that's tomorrow. There's a bit of a delay. It's going to be out for a week. It's where I'm going to describe the process, and then people can in the comments actually put in bids.
Nice.
And it's going to be the highest bid a week later, which is the 17th. Exactly 10 GMT is when all bids will finish. And then whoever's got the highest bid at that point then wins the foil.
What a great idea!
And I'll post it to them for free anywhere in the world. So
amazing.
You're gonna get a bargain foil, an epic foil, and all of the proceeds are going to Bear Cottage to help out a good cause. So it's a great, it's a really good thing that we're doing as a community. People are jumping on board. The one thing I will say is that in order for it to work, I think there's a lot of holes in the system, obviously, with it being YouTube, but we wanted to do it on the channel to keep it in one place rather than going off to an auction site. So it kind of needs the community to play ball,
Yeah, you don't want 1 cent bids.
That's it. Yeah, and so we're gonna kind of I put a minimum $50 bids. Yeah, and I'm gonna try and police it as I'm going through in the comments, but I think it will. I think the community's small enough and good enough that it will work.
Maybe in the comment section you can always have a pinned comment in there with maybe some guidelines for the bidding.
That's it. Yeah.
We'll hound anyone that chucks in a cent in there.
That's it. Yeah, exactly.
We're surely that was a typo, mate.
Yeah, put a 0 on the end of it.
Oh, dude, that's such a great idea, and such look, I've been overwhelmed with the community myself, just with this podcast and trying to reach out to certain people, and everyone has been super supportive, and I'm sure that everybody that you've reached out to has been equally supportive to such a good cause like this, man. And congrats for you tying this to something that's actually meaningful, not just views or anything like that. It's something that's meaning something to some people, and in a time of their life that it's really critical.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I get the joy of using the gear and doing the videos, and I enjoy doing that. And I've got time on my hands, that's the other thing. So yeah, it's I think it's a good thing to do, and I enjoy it. A lot of people have asked me actually locally. I personally haven't had any involvement in Bear Cottage. Obviously, I've got 2 kids, they're healthy, and a lot of people have asked me that, so I just wanted to make that clear. That's not the reason why I'm doing it, but I do know people that have unfortunately gone down that route. So it's really important. It's close to my heart, and we can, as a community, do a bit of good at the same time as someone gets an epic foil. And actually, sorry, I just want to do a massive shout out to Code and Josh for doing this. So they didn't have to do this. They have donated a foil, which is epic, and I think that deserves a bit of a shout out.
Yeah, 100%, and it's what I think we should all be doing, man. Anything that people want help with, that I get involved with, I'm like, look, after we chat on the podcast, I'm always like, dude, if you have anything that you're working on, anything that you want to get the message out, reach out, because I feel humbled sometimes, with the people that I talk to and the people that we get contact with. So good on you, man. I'm really proud of you for doing that. That's
Thanks,
awesome.
Man. Thank you.
Gav, let's get on to some parawinging. I want to learn a little bit about yourself. I don't know if you know the format of the podcast, but we always start with a little bit of an explanation about your history in sports, so we know what you're bringing in your toolkit for parawinging and your approach to parawinging. So give us a little bit about your history in sports, where you started, and how did you end up with a jellyfish in your hand?
Yeah, I think it's kind of, when I look back at it, there's a natural progression to end up parawinging. It's kind of a combination of all the sports. So yeah, I mean, I started off surfing. That was the first thing I did as a kid. In the UK, believe it or not, it's cold, but it is good. There are some really good spots. And then I went into sailing. I did that a lot. I was in competitive sailing at quite a high level for years and years as a youth, and got into the British sailing team and did that, all over the country and the world actually. And it got to a point where I just wasn't quite good enough to do it professionally. Some of the guys that I was on the circuit with, I see them now, doing very well. And I just wasn't quite there, if I'm honest with myself. And so I decided at that point to go down a different route. And then like water sports was just more enjoyable for me at that point. And I took up windsurfing. I got into that in a big way. And I took up kiting really early. So I took up kiting in the early 2000s, late. Yeah, it must have been 2000 when I had my first kite.
Amazing.
And
in that transition of kiting kind of just taking over windsurfing and everybody doing that transition.
Yeah. And if I'm honest with myself, I think my heart was always in windsurfing, always looking for the waves. And but where I lived, it wasn't quite. So we had flat water, and then the drive to the waves was about 45 minutes or so. So, but then I think just kiting was just much more. You could just get on the water more because the wind range was better. So I really then got into kiting. I just kind of ditched the windsurfing. You could travel with the gear. And this all resonates with parawinging, right?
100%.
Like, you know, all of the same things that drew me to kiting. And I did it for years, just all like, you know, loved it. And then when I was in the military, like learning to fly, it was really challenging because I was posted inland and it was very difficult to get to places. So it kind of stopped a little bit really, which is a bit disappointing. I'd go on the odd, you know, trip and what have you, but it took a bit of a back burner, to be honest. And then and then when I left, I then really took it back up again and then started getting into kite foiling. So again, I got into that quite early.
That's what your first form of foiling was with the kite.
Yeah. Nice. And it was teaching myself. Like it was a bit of a steep learning curve, if I'm honest, but got there eventually and really, you know, really enjoyed that. Just going out in all wind conditions, really light stuff, as you know.
That's it.
And then we moved to Australia, and I saw winging for the first time, and I wasn't sold on it. And I think it took about a year for me to like really get into it. And then eventually, I don't know. Like I reckon it's because like when you look at it, you're always looking at beginners, and so it looks really kooky. Like you know, you're not seeing like cats like, slash waves or anything like that. You're watching somebody mess around on flat water, not really making it work, and
130 liter board. You're like, Jesus.
I just didn't really. In fact, actually, at that point, I then got back into boats and I started doing moth sailing. So you know, so I got into that, which is just it's so expensive. I quickly looked into I bought a boat and things were going wrong and I was spending a fortune on it and time as well. And that is why I made the jump over to winging actually, because you know, I was like I could sell all this gear and get like the best stuff available. So I did that. And then just jumped into winging and really got into the winging. And then I got into downwinding as a result of the YouTube channel. So it was an experiment to see how long it would take me to learn how to downwind. And it was a bit of a baptism of fire. I had no idea. I'd never picked up a paddle. Like I'd never paddled in my life. So everything was new. And interestingly, there's a really big community here in Northern Beaches. Obviously, James Casey and Josh are here, and they kind of all took me under their wing, and I joined the Casey group. And
nice.
And before you know, I got hooked onto that, and I did it a lot. Like I did it a lot. You know, everything went to the back burner at that point. And
how long did it take you to kind of dial it in? It took me forever, man.
I reckon it was a year. I reckon it was a year of doing it a lot before I was like comfortable, being able to like, I know I can do a run now and not have like shockers. So a lot of time, we've got this run locally that we do all the time, and I reckon I paddled that like without getting up and foil once. I reckon I've done that. I reckon I've done that about 20 times.
Right. It's cruel, isn't it? And I would go on these runs as well, small runs like 5K, but it would take me like an hour and a half. And I would get up for like 50 meters. I'm like, I love it.
I know. You get that little sort of, little bit of joy, and then
just
that's
a taste.
It. You're like, you want to then do it again and again and again. I remember once, because when I'm on my off times, I do the school pickup for the kids. And I did one run. I was like, we're starting at 12. I've got loads of time before the pickup.
Ooh, that's kind of tight, actually.
Sure shit. I'm out in the ocean, and it's like 20 to 3, and I'm like, oh my god, this is just so bad.
Man, I need my partner to watch this, because we allocate like 3 hours is just nothing. It's like the minimum to make it rushed, you know, like once you get to shore, see you, bye, no chats, no debriefs, just run. And sometimes it just happens, and like she's like, why does it take 5 hours? I'm like, because I didn't get up.
Yeah,
it just floated.
Right. It's just a lottery, isn't it? Like at the beginning. I think like now I've kind of got it down to a bit of a tee. We're going to do a run this afternoon actually, and so I've got a space of like 3 hours. I'm confident that with the right gear, I'm going to do it real quick. It'll be a 20-minute run, and so I've got to that point downwinding now where I can do that. But yes, it's actually, this is a really good segue. For that very reason, I was looking for something that would give me downwinding in half an hour or an hour. Mm-hmm. That's what I was looking for. Yeah. I was desperately after it. And so I was searching everywhere and coming up with ideas myself. So very early on, I got involved in the wing pack downs. Mm-hmm. James had this like crazy contraption where you could actually pump it up down the run, but that just wasn't working. I was popping wings and so, but it just never really did. The pack down never really did it for me, because you always had this extra weight on your back, and it did make a difference. Like,
I found it tough as well.
I always found you had to then get a bigger ball or a bigger foil to compensate, and it's really strange because it doesn't seem like it's a lot, but I think it's because it's on your shoulders, this swing weight. It always collects water. When you fall in, it then gets worse and worse and worse, and you compound this. Anyway, I was then like seeing things on the internet. Like there was one guy, I think he was in France, who had a wind wing that was like an umbrella that you could pack down. I don't know if you saw that.
The black and red one?
Yeah.
I think I saw that, yeah. It looked like a death trap though, man. Just falling with that thing. Like I was like, it's just gonna stab me in the rib or something.
Yeah, I did think that. But I reached out and I was like, how much are they? And it was so expensive. I was like, that's just not an option. It's just not, And so when the original, is it the Hawaii 5.0? Is it the Pocket Wing? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sam Reynolds and
Yeah. So when that came out, first of all, like that really grabbed my attention. I was like, okay, this is what I'm after. And I actually tried to order one, and then I messaged him, and he we were having a discussion, and he goes, so he doesn't really go upwind. And that was like, okay. Because I didn't want it just to do the sense, because I could do that already with downwinding. I was after self-positioning. This hour window was what I was after. And then as soon as the BRM popped up on my screen, I went nuts. Like, I was just like, that's it. Yes. That is what I'm looking for. And, I was analyzing the video, like frame by frame, going, are they actually going upwind? Is this actually happening? And so I was so excited. I ordered one straight away, and you couldn't get them in Australia. Like, they wouldn't post them in Australia straight off. And so I had a friend in the States, so I bought it, sent it to him, and then he went on holiday, and there was a delay in it, and then they changed the website. You could send it to Australia.
Oh,
so I was like,
God!
No! So everybody was getting them in Australia, and mine was sat in this apartment.
That's gut-wrenching, man.
Yeah. So anyway, eventually I got it. And it did everything I wanted it to. It was perfect. It was the perfect fit. It was just, I couldn't have asked for more. It was just great. I picked it up relatively quickly. It wasn't easy, but I think with the background of windsurfing, winging, kiting, and then I could downwind already, that combination made it relatively easy. So the things I had to learn was obviously that, I had all the stability with the board. I had all the right gear as well. So I had the downwind board, I had the big foils. And so it was pretty seamless for me. Now, I have seen people have different experiences. And again, I think that's a lot of it's background and gear and conditions, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But don't get me wrong, I did have some shockers. I did the classic, I went out in 5 knots on the first one and didn't get it going. And then funny old thing, I did that again and then again. And then I did the opposite, and I went out in 30 knots with a 4 meter. And
I've been there.
Scary. Smash. Yeah. and then I had some just dream sessions. I remember the first one where it was just it was that perfect, like 17 knots. It was sunny. It was in a bay. The bumps were good. And I was just like, I came in just going, why is everybody not doing this?
Man,
like, this
I'm
is the best form of downwinding you can get. And I had this area to myself. So where we are, so I'm rambling a bit, but like where we are, there's right next to Sydney Airport is where we do our runs. And so obviously you can't kite there, but you can Parawing, you can wing, everything's fine. But next to the runway is where the bumps get incredibly good. So they get really steep in a southerly because there's an outgoing tide that just jacks them up. It's basically like what I imagine the gorge is like. It's just, it's just really good, but it's very difficult to get to. Well, it's almost impossible to sup because it's so close to the end point. You wouldn't be able to get there and make the cut back. Yeah. So you can only get there winging, and everyone knows it's a great winging spot. But then you've got the wing train behind you and blah blah blah. So on a power wing, it is just nuts.
Sensational.
And I am often there on my own for an hour and a half, just getting like wave after wave after wave after wave. Like it's just unbelievable. And like I think to myself, I'm like, this is what like the first person ever windsurf like who keeper must have thought. Like, when they're there on their own, like just getting wave after wave.
Where is everyone? Like, why aren't more people getting into it? I ask myself the same thing as well. Like, what do you think is the blockage right now for people to jump on it more? Because I thought, like, as you said, kiter background, winger background, downwinding background, and prone background, I'm assuming as well. When I think about where I am here as well, which is a bay, all I want to do is surf. So the best way to do that is with the Parawing, because you could do it with the wing, but you have that, in your way all the time. What do you think is preventing people from jumping on?
I think it's a barrier to entry for several reasons. So one, I think you need the right gear, and I think it sort of it resonates more with. I think it's been difficult for people that already downwind to jump onto it. That's what I've seen locally, is that my downwind crew snub it. There's a few guys that have come over, but most people look at it and go, nah, I'm quite content with my downwind runs. And there's something, it's the wingers I think will slowly come over. It's the people that see the downwind, want to give downwinding a go. And I reckon it's probably because as a winger, you're probably going to have to buy a bigger board as well. It probably means as a winger, you're, having to learn a new sport, go back to being humbled again. Like I think it's the same reasons as learning to downwind, I guess. But I'm convinced, I have been since I got the taste of it, that it will end up being a thing. I think it will become really popular because it's got all of the advantages of downwinding with not the pain of being able to do it. Now the caveat to that is that right now, as you know, particularly the lower end is challenging. So and this is a prime example. Today it's forecast 15. It's probably going to be less than that, and so that's not a powering day. Yeah, and so that's when I'm going on my sup and I'm doing a downwind run, and I tend to be relatively strict with that now. That kind of 12 to 15 knots. It has to be right for me to go out powering in those conditions because. I think because I can downwind sup, I'll choose to do that.
Yeah. So let's go back to those people that downwind and are not getting into it, because I think there is such a big argument to get into it, because
unbelievable.
What size boards are they using? Over 100 liters.
I know.
What size foils are they using? Probably 900, 1,000.
More like sometimes
1300s and all that stuff. I think once they experience a downwind run on an 80-liter board with an 800 foil and nothing in your hands, man, I remember the first time that happened, I was laughing. I'm like, this is what it should be, because you see these professional athletes doing these prone downwinders, and that's reserved for 0.1% of foilers out there. Exactly. And the Parawing allows you to do that. It allows you to tap into something that is reserved for like professionals. So I do think they will come around as soon as they cross that little entry barrier of learning the parawing and just experiencing a downwinder with a smaller board. How was that experience for you when you first got into the smaller gear?
That, what you were saying really resonated with me. Again, the laughing. I couldn't believe I was doing it. It just, I think I was on exactly as you said, I was on a 75-litre board and I was on an 800 foil, and I could turn it like I was proning, but this continued for like an hour. Yes. And I just it was just unbelievable. And I came into the beach, I was so excited, I was calling people, just going, oh my God, guys, you have got to get into this. This is so amazing. And people just weren't on my level of excitement about it. And again, I honestly, I find it really strange. But I think, particularly with the downwind crew, I see a lot of people still in the learning process of downwinding. They haven't quite got there yet, and they're really in the hurt locker. I see them. Some people have been doing it for a year and a half, and they still haven't broken the back of it because they haven't got the time. They haven't got the when I did it, I was doing it like day in, day out.
That's important, yeah.
And so when you just turn up and you're doing it at a weekend or every so often, you're stretching out that learning process for months. Sorry, years. And, and I think that this is a great opportunity to get that experience, but in a very condensed time frame. And
maximize the time out there.
I understand why people don't do it. I think there's also an element of people who have gone down the downwind journey of I think you have to be a certain type of person to go down that route, because you have to be quite stubborn and focused and dedicated. And I think there's an element of I'm not willing to give that up and start something else because I haven't done it yet, I haven't completed it yet. And so I think there is a big element of that. And when I talk to people on the beach, they're like, I will, but I just want to do this downwind thing. Yeah. And I keep saying to them, I'm like, you can do both. You can do both. But I think when you get a taste of the parawinging, you will never look back. It will just be. Man. And I have to be honest with you, if I knew what I knew now, I probably wouldn't learn to downwind sup.
I would skip it completely as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would I would wing and I'd power wing, and that would be the two things I'd do. If it was big waves, I'd probably go on the wing, and then the downwinding stuff, I'd then go to power wing for sure. It's just, for me, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, look, and looking at similar people in my crew here, the people that come from a kiting or winging background, 5 sessions, man. They're up and going, they're doing it, they're able to go on downwind runs 100%. Some of them are taking a little bit longer to go upwind properly and point, the parawing in the right direction. And a lot of the times I think it's because they're overpowered and the wind range is really, really small. But I really feel that if you have some sort of background in wind sports, in foiling wind sports, man, you're going to pick it up quick, very quick.
For sure. For sure. Yeah. No, it's interesting now. I do think we will see it happen. It's just, I also think there's a lot of people, and I know you've mentioned this in your podcast in the past, there's a lot of people that are sitting on the fence about it and they're waiting for the best parawing to come out. Yeah. And I'm like, no, just buy whatever is in the shop or available in the secondhand market, whatever it is, grab one and go out, because they're all good now.
They all work.
Even the BRM, the first one that came out, you will not go wrong by buying one of those, because it gets you on the water, it goes upwind. Yes, the latest ones are better, but there's no two ways about that. But it will get you through the process, get you learning, and give you that sort of, I don't know, that adrenaline buzz that you're all after.
I think you pick one up for $400-$500 now.
I know. Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty good. So I paid $2,000 for that bad boy.
I know.
Full retail, full shipping, full tax. I'm like, I need it, and I don't regret it one bit.
No. Yeah. I don't either. Yeah. No, so I totally agree.
Oh, dude, yeah. It was, for me, it was really one of those life-changing moments in foiling. This is all I do right now. I took the paddle out probably 4 times after I started parawinging. But
so you don't paddle at all now?
No, I do. But look, it's like you said, with the conditions, and we had a cracking summer. We had every day 20 knots, sea breeze. So in those conditions, man, I'm parawinging. I'm getting a small board, a small foil. And I changed a little bit as well what I do. Instead of doing, trying to get shuttles and all that stuff, I just go to a high performing spot and just lap that. Yeah. Like you said, you're in this high performing little area that, everybody wants to hit. And you just do that. You go upwind for 500 meters and you just rip turns. Yeah. And my turns got like exponentially better. I can see it in my videos, like the first ones with the parawing. I'm just kind of just cruising. Now I'm kind of like cutting back and just really, doing much more. So much more.
Parawinging has made my proning so much better.
100%.
So I went proning interestingly, where we live, like the proning's not actually that great. There's a couple of spots, but they only work occasionally. It's actually better just slightly down the coast and up the coast. But anyway, so as a result of it, I tend not to prone that much anymore. I used to do it a lot, and I went out for the first time in months, and I was blown away. I was like, oh my god, I'm actually really connecting these turns way harder than I ever was before, and I've had a massive break from it, and that comes down to parawinging because
totally,
it's a similar board, similar foil, and you really can learn, and with the parawing, I don't care if I fall off because I'm up in 30 seconds, and
it's just getting up like on a wing, just as easy.
And what else were you saying that resonated with me when you talk about so again it's location based, so we have the option of doing proper offshore runs, but we've also got a bay like you. It's not as good as yours, but Botany Bay it can get good, but it needs to be really windy. The thing with downwinding that with a sup is that I was getting really bored of it because you have to use a big foil because the beginning of the run is flat. So you have to use, like, we're talking now like 1200s, 1100s, and so you end up just riding the bumps, and it's all quite consistent and groomed. And I was just doing runs, just sort of drifting away, just thinking, I think I'm a little bit over this now. Like, it's really interesting, but I never get that in the ocean. Because there's so much going on.
It's dynamic,
And as you said, like, you go through stages of the run where the beginning's terrible, and then it's good for literally like 10 minutes, and then it gets rubbish again. And so being able to just stay in that 10-minute zone, that area, is just gold. Like, you just can't replace that. And so, I just think that location-based like that, anyone that lives like that's got an inland lake or a bay area, like, don't even bother downwind supping. It's not even worth it. Just get a parawing, learn that, and you'll just have so much of a better time.
You just scrape the cream off the top, you let the yucky stuff down there, you just get the cream. That's what we want. But let's get into your gear, man. I'm really curious because you ride code as well, right?
That's right.
What are you riding? You mentioned the 980 S. Do you ride any of the R series, or you're just more into the S?
I do. So I'm still figuring it all out because I only just moved over to code. I was using Armstrong before, and so the code stuff, so the 980 is like my go-to. Now I love that because it's got a really good speed range, it turns well, and it pumps well. Those three combinations just mean that in parawing it's really good. The better it gets, the windier it gets, in the S series I then go down to the 850. I haven't used the 720 yet, but that's only because we probably haven't had the right conditions for it yet. I'm sure it would be epic.
Your mind will blow up when you try it. It's incredible. It's incredible. That's kind of the range I have from the 720, 850, 980, and I stop at the 1130. Those are the four that I own.
So I don't I use the 1130 when I prone it when it's really, really small, and I use that for I use it for like supping into waves. So I haven't really used it parawinging that much, because what I tend to do is, if it's a bay, it needs to be windy for us, and then if I'm parawinging out in the ocean, then I'll go to the R series. So my go-to is the 880 and the 770. And so I was out yesterday on the 770, and that is so good. Like,
I need to try the 770. I haven't tried it yet.
It's so good. Like, again, this is the reason why I'm kicking myself that I haven't used the 720S, because I was a bit like, oh, it's quite a small foil, but you get onto it and it's fine. Like it gets up super early, but it just, I think the 860 and the 770, both of those are the two R series that turn really well.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm after when I'm parawinging. So I don't, I'm not really interested in like the big like foils that just glide down. I want to turn because I want a small 100%. Board. And so that's probably as big a foil as I go, the 860R.
Yeah.
And again, it's just, I think it's all about matching the foil to the conditions. And so, when you're going out in the ocean, you want something that's a bit faster and just keep up with the swells. And so, but the 770 is amazing because it turns, like I'd say, as good as the 980.
Nice.
And I always use either the 142 tail or the 120.
Are those the two tails that you own, or do you have some more stuff that you chuck in there?
I do have other tails, but I that's all I sort of use. They're my most used ones for everything, really. So,
yeah, if Code's listening to this, I would love a smaller AR tail, like a 130 AR. That would be so nice, because sometimes the 142, I find, even in the bay, I find it just a little draggy. If it's like a proper 25 knots, you want a little bit more. Yeah. And then the 120 is fine, but a little spanny, a little bit more locked in. Yeah. So I would love to see that.
I totally agree. Because I jump between those two all the time. I totally agree with that. It's just something in between. And I think again, I think that's very, very focused on powering, isn't it? It's because we want something that's small that turns well.
Yep.
I think I've heard people chopping down the 142. I'm not sure whether that. But in fact, actually, I know there is stuff coming. Like Josh was talking about it. So
nice.
Yeah, hopefully something like that comes out soon.
And what about fuse lengths? Do you play around with that?
Yeah, I do a lot. So fuse length, I jump between a medium and a short, and I use a short whenever I'm going for a bigger foil. So whenever it's whenever I want to pump a lot or I want to turn a lot, then I go for a shorter fuse.
Yep.
Or if I'm using a bigger wing. So if I am actually doing a downwind sup run, I'll put on a really small fuse to the 1075 or the 1250. That's when I'll put on the small fuse. And then again, if I want to pump a lot with the 980, then I'll put a short fuse on.
Nice. You should try the extra small. I was surprised because
I'll use that.
Like I was a little bit concerned because I was Armstrong as well before I started riding Code, and jumping fuses in Armstrong, I would feel a lot of that pitch like sensitivity. I'm like, oh, I don't know if I want like something twitchy, but I tried the small, liked it, tried the extra small, and the pitch sensitivity didn't change at all. It just felt like the 1130. It felt like the 980. It was just turning on a dime. And it kind of changed a little bit the way I think about how I'm, sizing my gear for the run, because I can be on a 1130, even in 20 knots, which I wouldn't normally. Very small tail, super short fuse, but I can really feel and bank the turn so much harder because it's a big foil as well. And I see a lot of the guys in the gorge doing similar things. They don't ride small foils there, but also because it's fresh water, there's a little bit of nuance there. But that's something worth experimenting. And Code is amazing with having demos and stuff everywhere. I'm sure you can get your hands on an extra small. Give it a crack, man, because I was just surprised at how stable it was. And as I start going down the range to the 720, then I start sizing up my fuse. So I use the medium with the 720 because then it's a big day.
Yeah,
the turns are not really sharp. It's just you trying to keep up with the swell, really. Give it a crack, man. I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, no, interesting. I will actually. I'll have a chat to the shop and I'll see if I can grab one. I was a little bit, I always get into this like rut of like I know what I like and I stick to it, and every so often you should try something different and give it a go. So yeah, I will. I'll give that a shot.
Cool. Let's get into some more gear now, because man, I think you're one of the guys that has tried the biggest number of Parawings out there. Like I think there's no one out there who's tried more Parawings than you.
I'm sure there's some designers, but they should be. Designers are doing that, but I have used a lot now.
So which ones have you tried?
I should have made a list of this. I wasn't
So
that. Okay,
I'll help you. Have you tried the ENSIS?
Yes. Yeah.
BRM,
Yes.
Flow,
Yes.
North,
Yes.
the what's the latest? The Ozone
Ozone puckering, yeah.
and Duotone.
And duotone, yeah.
Anything else?
And I've used there's a German company Born.
Born.
And I've used the F1 Plume.
Okay, we'll get into that.
And I've used
I'm writing Plume in a different column.
Yeah.
list.
Rightly so. Yeah. And then the 777 double skinned.
Oh, you tried that already?
Yeah.
Nice. I'm curious to see how what you think about that. So, look, I really want to give the viewers an idea of what these Parawings do well. And look, all of them will have strong points, weak points, and that's how it is, right? If it has a great low end, it's not going to have a great top end. It's not going to go upwind that well. And if it goes upwind that well, you might struggle a little bit with the bottom end, things like that. But let's go through this list.
Oh, and the Nash Morph as well.
Oh, the Morph, yeah.
Yeah. I think there's a couple other ones as well. They'll come to my mind. Anyway,
we'll go through it.
Yeah.
And I just want to give the users an idea. So if we talk about a Parawing, what does it do well and why should you get it? Like what do you think it's for? And I think if we go through this list, I've used a couple. I haven't used all of these. I think it'll just help them understand which one to buy depending on what they want to do with it, because there are different disciplines coming up. If you're a pure downwinder, I think there's certain Parawings out there that will be great. If you need to go upwind, you need to be mindful of what you're getting a little bit, because they're not all going upwind as well as each other. So maybe let's start with just the first one we named here, the ENSIS. What do you think about the ENSIS? What does it do well?
So I have to think back of this one. Yeah, so I totally agree with what you're saying. I think it's because I get asked this question all the time, like, which one is the best?
Yeah.
And what's best for me is not necessarily best for everybody else because of my location, like my skill level, my experience with Parawings, and all of the above. So the ENSIS is it went upwind well. It packed away well, but it was only I only used the 3 meter, so all Parawings pack away well at 3 meter. They come in their own at 5. Like I think when you get a 5 and it packs away well, you've got a good one. Yeah. So it was well made. Its downsides were, and I think they have actually changed this, is that the wingtips would fold in. So it was more stable than the BRM because it wouldn't collapse completely, but it would fold in, and then the drag would increase. It come back in the wind window. So where I'd say this probably wouldn't excel in is going upwind in really windy conditions. That's probably where its sort of pitfall is. But where it was really good is it turned really well. It was really maneuverable and it was easy to use. I think that's kind of like where I say it would sit. It was very maneuverable, actually. That's probably one of the best things about it.
I agree with that. And the only thing I would add is that if you are concerned about safety and you want, to have some sort of leash connected to it, it has that, the B lines that you can connect your safety.
That's right.
But agree. I think it also felt like, for me, it felt really easy to pack. But again, it was a 3. I tried the 3 as well, but the fabric was really water wicking. And there's one here that I want to talk about that I've been using recently that I felt like the fabric was a little sticky to my hands because it was so thin, but we'll get to that one. Cool. I think that's a great summary on the ENSIS. BRM and BRM V1 or V2?
V1. I've got the V2s coming.
Nice.
So they're due today, actually. They're due to arrive today. So the BRM, I have to do a massive shout out to them for, the pioneer, the founder, the fourth, the guy that actually invented it. So, and what a product they had when they first came out. And I think
they nailed that V1, man.
Oh, mate. And it is, to this day, unmatched for the packaway.
It is.
Like it is incredible, like how well it packs away.
It's the
And
fabric, isn't it? Just that
yeah,
silky, different. It's
yeah,
not like a kite crispy fabric. It's just a
that's
silky
right.
fabric, isn't it?
Just disappears in your hand,
Yeah.
and you're like, boom, comes down to like this tiny little ball, and before you know, and the belt, the concept of the belt. So I'm sure we'll talk about this in a moment, but like I've played around with loads of different ways of spelts and stowing and getting rid of it. I used to like to not stow it, so I used to put it in my hand. I did that for a long time, and I've now gone back to the belt, the original. I'm using the OZONE belt, which is really good. Like that's really good, but the original BRM belt was really good. But where the BRM came into its own was the pack away.
Yeah.
So its downfall was being able to handle the upper end because it would like jellyfish and be uncontrollable. I had some pretty bad experiences in a lot of wind. But for somebody that actually wants to do like a downwind send, pack it away and forget about it, that one comes into its own. That
And
one
good
is
bottom
like
end on it too.
really good bottom end. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it flies well. It's a really good power wing. And I think the new generation of V2s, I think that is going to be epic. I think that's going to be difficult to beat because from what I've seen, they have then now made it stable as well. And so it'll be really interesting to see what that one's like. But
So
yeah,
BRM for me, wave riding and downwinding,
yeah, I agree. Yeah.
because it does go upwind.
It does.
You know.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. No, it's I used that for 4 months solidly in all different conditions. It just, as I said, I don't think they specifically designed it to handle 30 knots going upwind. Like that wasn't in the design brief, but it is now, and I reckon they've done some changes to it now.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning as well, if you are out in 30 knots on a 4-meter parawing, no matter what brand, you're not going upwind, man.
Yeah.
It's just gonna yank you downwind.
Yeah.
Next one, flow.
Flow again, market leaders, right? Like so, they were the first ones to bring out powering that you could go upwind and it was stable and you could depower for the front lines. And again, like that was the second one I had after the BRM, and it kind of solved all the problems I had with the BRM. So I was like, oh my god, I'm now in control in gusts. I'm really and so. For me, the flow comes into its own for self-positioning, going upwind for short periods of time, packing away and coming down again. It doesn't pack away as well as some of the others. That's the only thing I'd say. Like particularly in the bigger sizes, it's a real mission. Like I think is it a 5.5 or a 5? I can't remember. The 5, the bigger one.
That's huge.
That is a challenge. Like when you're using that, generally the wind's not very big, not very strong, right? The bumps aren't quite good. Like that pushed me to my limits. But I tell you what, it made me a real good power winger because you then get onto a 3 meter and just goes, whoop, just like So again, they did an incredible job of like their experience with paragliders being able to like incorporate that into a wing that just fly upwind really well, really stable. Great, yeah, I really enjoyed that one. But I think its downfall is. I think in the bigger size it doesn't turn very well and it doesn't pack down as well as some of the others. So again, totally I think where it comes into its own is for really short self-positioning where maybe you're just going to be holding it for short periods of time rather than doing really long upwind downwinds or self-positioning. I
like it. I think and I kind of follow the same path, BRM to flow, and I think that was a big step in the stability, which now I think is standard. If they don't come out with the stability of the flow, they're kind of behind a little bit. So
100%.
they set the benchmark for that stability.
They really did. Yeah. And unfortunately, they set the benchmark whilst a lot of brands had already gone into production with
delayed
theirs.
A little bit, didn't it?
Yeah. And so it really knocked the market. The flow, when that came out, I think a lot of brands, particularly the bigger ones, that they have a delay between when they go solid on a product and like go, yep, we're going to go for it. Let's push the button, and then it goes into production. Flow came out in the middle of that, and so they couldn't change it. And so now we're seeing some brands that don't have that stability performance, and that's no fault of their own. Like it's just timing and size of the brands. But unfortunately for everybody else, Flow really knocked out the park with that. and now
Yeah.
it's the standard. Like if you don't have that, you're like, well, why would I go to another brand when Flow has got the, you know, that stability? Good on them, ready.
Yeah. Yeah, those two brands, they just really nailed their V1s.
They do,
Next one, North Ranger.
Yeah, so North Ranger, like again, I think the prime example of what I was just talking about. I think they produced something before the Flow came to market, and so we're now in competition with a wing that goes upwind really well. The Ranger comes into its own it's got a very good low end, and
Huge.
it packs down really well.
Huge low end.
Yeah, so that's where it kind of sits. And I think it sits more in the very early learner, and because it flies well as well, and for shuttled runs, so going downwind. I think it doesn't go upwind as well as some of the others.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have the leading edge is not as fixed as secure as everybody else's. In fact, they even have
no battens on them.
No battens. That's what I'm looking for. And so it very quickly gets very draggy, sits back in the window, and then your upwind ability then reduces rapidly. It does go upwind, there's no two ways about it, and it is relatively stable, but it's not. It doesn't perform as well as some of the other ones out there for going upwind.
Yeah,
so I think it sits really. If I was to point someone for learning, then I think the North would be a great one.
And the other one, another thing that's worth noting for the North is the price point.
That's true.
Very cheap price point. So really good to get into it. And like you said, if you're doing downwind runs only, shuttled, it's probably the one I would choose, because I can go out on a smaller Ranger and, get the same bottom end that I would in maybe a 4 meter. So worth exploring that one.
Yeah. And they're all coming out with different, so that's got a backpack in as well, so you can take potentially two. I do like the idea of a backpack. It is a bit over-engineered, but that's a really good thing that they've done. And what else was I going to say about the Ranger? It'll come to me. But yeah, they've done really well with it. And I know they are working on another one, which I think will have the next level performance. But they very much focused it at that. That was what I was going to say. So even though it is predominantly, for beginners and getting into it, it still goes upwind. It's still, it's still a great powering. If that was you're not going to outgrow it anytime soon. It just doesn't perform quite as well as some of the other ones out there.
Yeah. And I mean, you just have to be doing a couple more tacks to get to where you want to get to.
That's right.
And look, it will get you a little bit more tired. You might have to have a harness just to maximize, and you'll get in tune with the gear as well, and you'll try to extract as much as you can.
Exactly.
The one thing that I was a little disappointed was just in the color coding. They do have a color coded leading edge, but not the lines and the bar. Those are little basic things that I'm sure, you can get used to it, but it's nice.
They went into production with it before that became apparent, I think. So interesting.
From the North, let's go to maybe the opposite side of the scale, the OZONE.
Yeah.
Pocket rocket.
The OZONE. Yeah, that is a great powering.
It's a good one, isn't it?
They have really hit the nail on the head with it. And it comes at no surprise. These guys have been doing water sports and they've been doing paragliding. It was a match made in heaven, and they produced a really great powering. I love it. For me, it's my favorite because, again, I've got to be careful what I say, because I've only got a 3. So I've only used a 3, so I don't know what the bigger ones are like. But the 3 packs well. It goes upwind. It's stable. So for my type of powering, it works really well. I really enjoy the bar. Simple color coding's great. It's really stable in gusts. I love that. So at the moment I'm using that one more than anything else. Very, very well designed. I'm struggling to find bad things about it. Lots of people have asked me, and I have heard rumors that the bigger sizes don't turn as well. I don't know whether that's true.
That's to be expected, though, isn't it? I mean, it's a bigger size.
Exactly that. So I think hats off to OZONE at the moment. They've done a great job there.
I've gotten one recently, and I've I had a massive session on it just 2 days ago, 30 knots on the 3. So I was overpowered. But I was flying upwind.
Yeah.
Like all the wingers were like, they came to me after the session and you're like, man, you were doing better angles than I was doing.
Yeah.
And they're not bad wingers either. And that kind of, for a few of them, they're like, I think I need one now, because they're all on the fence of how this thing goes upwind. And I'll tell you right now, man, any Parawing will go upwind. There's nothing in any of these brands that you will not be able to go upwind. Like they will do it. And the other thing, so this is the one that I wanted to talk about, the fabric. I like that the fabric is super thin. I think it's a 32-gram fabric from memory.
Yeah.
But this one, I'm using their belt as well, which by the way is the best belt I've used.
Great, isn't it?
As well. It's absolutely amazing. Yeah. But I felt that when I was stowing it, it would kind of stick to my hand.
Interesting. Yeah, I've not noticed that. Yeah, okay.
It's
I understand what you're saying, because like, you know, it's like a plastic bag that sometimes just like gets
like if it's wet and your hands are wet. I was trying to put it in the belt, and I was kind of like, you know, like just trying to get it out of my hands at some point. So I'm like, just just let go. I'm not quite sure. And look, I had 2 sessions on it, so it's not enough to give too much out there. But it did feel a little sticky. But I'm sure that might be a coating they use or something like that. It just felt a little different for me.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, and again, like you, I do feel it's ahead of the game. So we'll rank these soon because we have to. I felt that the lines were a little bit more prone to tangling. It was the first time that I got like knots, proper knots in the lines.
Yeah, so interestingly, I mentioned that in the review I did. So I had that in it's the brake lines, the back lines. There's like knots on the and they're quite prominent, and then they end up sometimes getting. Now, recently it hasn't happened. So it happened a lot at the beginning, and I don't know whether they've just either got taught or they've like now, you know, stretched, and it doesn't really happen that much anymore.
Nice, because it might be you getting used to the gear as well, because I noticed that happened when I was, you know, I stowed it and it wasn't great, but the other brands, because maybe the lines are a little bit thicker, it kind of undoes. You can pull a line and get away, you know, like when you just you get away with some things.
No, I know what you mean, and that, but it hasn't happened to me for a while now. So it hasn't happened for probably about a couple of weeks.
Nice,
which is interesting because I've used it quite a lot. So I've been I've been looking for it. Like I've been looking for that tangle because I was expecting it, and I was like, oh, okay, it's fine, it hasn't happened. And the other thing I want to say about the Ozone is that the thing that I noticed is that it has all the upwind performance of the flow, but the flow, I think it's much more tuned than the flow. It's more, there's less flapping going on. It's much more stable, and it's silent going upwind. That's the thing that I noticed about it.
I know what you mean.
It sits there really well. It's really well tuned, and I think again that's probably years and years of paragliding.
Yeah, and I think if you're like into doing tacks and things like that, it's the easiest one to do.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Yeah,
it's so easy to throw a tack. It shoots upwind, and I think one term that I think we don't talk about enough in these Parawings is drive. Which is how much the Parawing kind of like sucks air into it and just allows the air to flow. And I feel like the Ozone, so slippery. Like it's so fast. It has that high top end.
Yeah.
And the last thing I want to say, I just have some notes on the Ozone, that stickiness of the material. And maybe because it was wet, I found it when I'm relaunching it, I was like kind of tugging. I want it to open a little bit quicker. And the flow, because it's a little bit more crispy, you chuck it out and it goes like it just relaunches really nicely. And the Ozone, I actually found myself like picking a leading edge to let a little air in sometimes so it would relaunch.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
So that's the only difference I felt, but amazing Parawing. Let's move on because we have a lot to talk about. The DUOTONE, I haven't tried the DUOTONE. What do you think about that one?
So, it's really interesting you're saying about the sticky thing. I found that with the DUOTONE, a little bit sticky to the hand. So again, it's a very, very thin material. Now the big advantage of that is like it packs down like the BRM. It's really good. It flies really well in light winds. Like it's really it just wants to sit there. You don't have to like manhandle it anywhere. And I used the 5 in probably like 10 knots, I think.
Nice.
I knew the flow would be like a mess, and this one was just in the air. I was like, wow.
Tough conditions for Parawing, 10 knots.
Yeah, really tough conditions. So I was really impressed with that. Now the big disadvantage of it, it's got this twin skin tips, which is great when they're flying and it's working. The big problem with it is as soon as they get submerged, they fill with water. When it's windy, it's not a problem. The wind just blows it out, and it's fine. But if you're using it at 5 meter in like 10 knots, it's a real pain to get rid of that water. Like, it's a real pain, and then it has a massive negative impact on the flying. So it's kind of this one of like, if you're an absolute beginner and your powering skills aren't that great, I wouldn't recommend it. Whereas like if you're somebody that has got some skills flying a Parawing, then it's amazing. So if you keep it in the air, it's incredible. If it properly, and I'm talking properly submerges, then that can be an issue. When I say an issue, like of 10 seconds and it was sorted, but it's just something that you just like, okay, like I'm having to work pretty hard.
You could live without it, but if you have it, it's not something.
It packs down really well. It turns really well. But again, it's one of the companies that they've let themselves down with the color scheme, like the whole leading. It's all pink.
Yeah.
So they've got one little square in the middle, but that's not enough. You need the whole leading edge to be in your face so that you can go, boom, there it is.
You want to see it from the corner of your eye almost.
Exactly that. Yeah.
I agree with that.
It happens like all the time. Like, with the ozone, like I always, where I pack it down, I always know that the white's at the front there, until I can just let it go and off we go. So yeah, it's interesting.
The cool thing about the ozone as well is that I can even like look at left and right because the wingtips are different colors, and I love that, man. I think it's like the more you ride with that, the more you just adapt to that kind of visual, and you know where it's going. It just becomes intuitive, and if you don't have that, I don't know why you wouldn't, to be honest, because it's so easy to incorporate that.
No, it's a good one. It's good.
Yeah, I'm keen to try that one. I haven't. I don't even know who's selling them in Victoria, but I'll chase that one up. Nash Morph.
Yeah, so that one was the first one that had the pulley system.
Pulley systems,
So sort of self-trimming. So the good things about it, again, quite a high aspect ratio. Color scheme was epic. Goes upwind really well. The wing tips do fold in slightly when it's overpowered. So I think the upper range isn't that great. But because of the pulley system, it then means that the lower end is pretty good. So it has got like a really good low end, and it's very well trimmed, and it flies beautifully. The very top end is lacking a little bit because of, again, the tips just fold in slightly. The big issue that I had with it was where the pulley connects to the bar. It's so close to where your finger, because you're always holding a power in at the front, right? Like where your hand is against the pulley, it sort of like sandwiches it. You can sort of squeeze it in. I understand, So they just need to extend that a little bit.
Have little bridles, maybe just like a 2 centimeter bridle or something.
So it's an easy fix. But yeah, that, and I think the bar is just one color as well. I like to have a bar where, again, you just got, top and bottom, so you know really quickly when you're grabbing it which side you're getting.
And that's important.
It's not so much of an issue.
Yet some people think, I can, like, you don't need it. But when you're unpacking something that looks like a train wreck, and you will have those moments, just being able to grab it, and then you're not thinking about it, and then you're already on the leading edge, man, it is like 100 times easier.
Oh, mate. And like, that's your known constant, isn't it? The bar is the first thing I go for. Is right, I've got the bar now. I know that's up. Right, cool. Now we can work out from everything else. If I don't let go of this, everything else is there.
Hopefully, it falls into place.
So it's a good, it's a good power end. Again, some changes need doing to it, but it is good.
The 777, man. What's that like? First dual, double skin. What is it for?
So, good question. Look, So I only used it once, and I used it pretty much. So I got a 4 meter. And it was overpowered. It was 30 knots, so it was windy. But the guy said use it in wind.
Okay.
And so I was like, okay. So it's a real challenge to fly. Like
Really?
it takes way more skill than anything else that I've used.
Is it like more of a ram kite that you really need to be on the rear lines and just like understand?
That's it. Yeah, the turning of it. So you can't just like, with most Parawings, you can just go, it's like a joystick. It's really simple, stupid. Whereas this, you've got to yaw it first, and almost like create the space and then dive it down. So it's like
More like a kite.
you're doing yaw and then roll. So you've got to go, the camera, you've got to go yaw and then roll. And that then turns it around. So you've got to do that on every time you're turning. And so quite often I'd find when I was getting it up, it was like I wasn't doing that, and then tip would hit the water, and then it's game over. Like it is just boom, the whole thing.
The double skin.
Like, dude, you're then like 10 minutes. I was drifting downwind, and I was like, I started off like it was on the shore anyway, and then the foil was hitting the bottom, and I was like, oh man. And then I had to pack, and then again like the double skin doesn't pack down very well, right? So for me, the whole point of Parawing is, as you mentioned before, small board, small foil, nothing in your hands. Like that for me is where, whereas at this, you just have to collapse it off the front lines, and then you've got all this material dangling, which is fine for short runs. But so I'm on the fence with it at the moment because I haven't really used it in its full capacity, but I've been told it goes upwind really well and it's super stable. So I think
I was gonna ask like how it would be very like it would perform really well going upwind. I'm assuming.
Yeah, but the small session I had, it did go upwind really well. I was like, is it going upwind better than
Enough?
The Ozone?
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know if it is. I think I'm pretty much, I didn't feel like I was like pointing into the wind like you would with a kite. I was like, well, I think.
Well, that's what it needs to have. If it's going to have a double skin, it needs to be, for me, I would see it as the ultimate, like, Parawing up with the paddle so you can freaking yank upwind and then do your downwind run with the paddle. I see that use case for it, but if it's not really delivering in the upwind angle and it has to be, like, significantly better, then it's...
So I don't want to slag it off because... like it's probably a lot to do with user error. Like I'm just used to flying like the Parawing that I'm used to, and I just didn't spend enough time on it. So I think the jury's out on this one at the moment. I wasn't sold by it. Like I didn't go on it straight away and was like, oh, this is epic.
Yeah.
I certainly wouldn't recommend a beginner to use it. Like it would put somebody off Parawinging, I think, if they use that the first time because it's so challenging to fly.
I am speaking with Aljaz to come into the podcast, and I really want to dissect it a little more and understand, because I think it's probably the Parawing that has a very small adoption at the moment because of the double skin. So we don't know enough about it.
That's right. Yeah. So I think it just needs. I need more time on it. I need to put away all my other Parawings and give it a good go. But I can see it going up really well, but it just needs a bit more skill.
Gotcha.
That was my first takeaway from it. Like, definitely not a beginner kite.
The Bourne.
The Bourne. Look, I wasn't a big fan of the Bourne. I found the lines were just too long. Again, it sort of.
That's tough.
It didn't really achieve what I wanted, which was to be able to pack away and nothing in your hands. I used it in the early days, and it was so. I found the material was much heavier than the BRM. The only thing I could compare it to at the time was the BRM, and the lines were too long. Like the pack away was just too much of it'd be a line length, and there'd be still like half a meter of line and Parawing dangling with my full reach, and I was like, well, now I'm in this scenario where I've got to sort that out and downwind. So it flew well, but it didn't achieve the aim for me.
And look, I think a lot of people underestimate how important the line length is for stowing. Yeah. And I think that's something that Greg really explored a lot with this V2. He has different line lengths for all of them. And the one that packs well is one that you could just go like, zoop, it's, it's super small. And I know a lot of the ozone riders in Maui, Sinbad, and I'm texting them continuously about the ozone. They've reduced their lines by 9.5 inches.
Oh, have they? Yeah, okay.
Which is a lot.
Yeah.
That is
a lot. Yeah.
And I'm like, well, are you losing bottom end? Like, what? They have a lot of wind, so I don't recommend people just slicing their line straight away. But they say it's working fine, and if you have like a 3 meter and you're going to be using in strong winds anyway, they're saying that it's turning amazing. The pack is just phenomenal. So I don't know, man. I still pay for my Parawing, so I'm not crazy about cutting lines yet.
No, I'm not gonna do that. Yeah, I think it's right now it's working for me.
It's working. Don't touch it. Don't touch it. That's the list, man. And we got the plume as well.
The plume. Yeah. So
I saw it for the first time on the beach just a few days ago, and the person that was using it said, "Do you want to have a go?" I'm like, no. Because I come from kiting, man, and even walking with a kite on the beach, I know how draggy it is, and they say there's no drag. That thing is just flappy, and I don't know. What do you think about it?
So, the first time I used it was on a proper downwind run where I got shuttled, and it was a real mistake because you should never do, but it was just on off, and I stupidly took it, and then. So what I did is I had a belt and I took I had a flow that I knew that I could get up. I knew it well, and I was like, worst case scenario, I'm just going to deflate this thing, pack it away, and I'll just use the flow and I'll be fine. And so it took me ages to figure it out. So because it's like a kite, it sits so far forward in the wind window. It's really difficult to get up onto foil because you don't have any power. It's really its natural point is like really far forward. And so I ended up taking forever to get up onto the foil, and it was windy. It was it was a solid 30 knots, and I think I had the 4.
Oh wow!
And I just couldn't get up. I was just like, what the fuck is going on? Yeah. And then, so eventually, what I did is I put it I started just drifting downwind with it, and then that's what got me up onto the 4 really quickly. So I just had to let it, almost stall it downwind, and then that's when I got up onto the foil. And then I quickly turned it upside down, like you were holding a kite, and did the whole downwind run. And it was annoying. It was just flapping away.
I can imagine, man.
And just getting and you just you're moving it. It was working. And it was downwinding. It was okay, cool. And I did the whole run like that. And at the end of it, I was like, I'm never using this again.
Is it easier? Is the experience better than a wing?
It is, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. And so I was going to get onto that. So I then got to the bottom of the run and then started doing laps of where I said that was, where the good point is. And then I was like, I get it now. So launching it's pretty easy. So you just, turn it back upside again. The handle then just dangles, and then you just grab it. There's no tangling, and then it goes upwind so well. We were saying before about the double skin. This thing goes upwind remarkably better than anything else because it sits so far forward, and it handles wind incredibly well. The 4 meter, I was just completely in control the whole time, and so I think where it really comes into its own is just doing really small runs, but you are holding something in your hand the whole time that flaps. That's
Do
the
you
downside
think
of it.
then I'm trying to find a use case for it, and if I am one of those downwind guys that wants to stay on the paddle, would it be a good tool to on a cross onshore day to take you out on a good angle, maybe 5Ks into the ocean or whatever, and then have a better angle to go downwind and use it more to maximize the wind direction in any day and always get a run? Or you don't because it goes upwind really well.
Yeah, but I think the Parawing just does all that and packs away better.
Yeah,
that's the difference, isn't it? I think where it comes into it's definitely easier to use than a Parawing. It flies much easier. There's less tangles. There's less things that can go wrong. But the big disadvantage of it is you obviously can't back it away. So I think it sits with like the learner, self-positioner going in. You're not going to get the same experience of powerwinging. It doesn't feel the same with the small board, with everything away.
Yeah.
But it's definitely better than winging, and it's easier than powerwinging. So for somebody that kind of like is on the fence, doesn't quite want to commit to the powerwinging and go through the chimeras, then this is an option, I think. But I don't think we'll see other brands bringing them out. Like, I don't think we'll see that. Like,
I kind of agree.
A bit of an F1 thing, and
they have their Parawing now as well.
Exactly. Yeah, I saw that. It was interesting. It came out like, so, yeah, they're kind of, I think they're trying to invent a new sport, but I just don't think that it replaces. I don't think there's enough of a gap in the market to have it, if I'm honest with you. I don't know. We'll see. Like
all of this stuff, yeah. Until somebody does a backflip on it and they're like, oh, it's the best thing ever.
That's it. Yeah, that's it.
Gav, I'm aware we are running out of time here. You're on a hard stop. We've got 5 minutes, man. What would you like to wrap this up with? I have tons of questions here, but is there anything that you feel you want to touch on?
There's so much, isn't it? We haven't even talked about. I think let me just I've got a little list of things I was wanting to talk about.
And we'll do another one, man. Like you're one of the guys that like we can just talk about parawinging for days. There's a lot of information to get out.
Yeah.
But what do you want to?
Maybe I could just touch on leashes and harnesses, because I get asked that. I'll do it really quickly just because I know that you don't use either, do you? You're no leash, no harness.
I don't, but I have a story about it with the OZONE. That was horrific.
Okay.
But I want you to talk first.
Yeah, okay. So, interestingly, I have now gone away from a leash, and I just use a harness now. So, and that happened because I was getting these new Parawings, and I'm the same as you. I still buy them. I buy them and sell them to keep the channel going. So I find that really important. Like if a company sends me something, then I have like ownership to do a good review on them. Otherwise, it makes them look bad. Whereas if I buy it, then I can do what I want. I don't have to say. So what I tend to do is I buy them and I bargain and to do it at wholesale. So it's cheaper, and then I can sell them on, and then that way I can just rotate. So that's great. And as a result of that, I was getting through quite a lot of Parawings. And so a lot of them don't have harness connections, and I didn't have to. So I started with these new Parawings not using a harness, and actually I was like, I'm not sure if I really need it or not. I don't know. And it definitely is easier for the pack away. There's one less thing for it to get in the way. But the harness for me, I used a harness from like DUOTONE, and I just a couple of times I've used it without it, and I hate it. Like I don't enjoy it without a harness. I love just being locked in, and then I can just relax and go upwind. And again, for me, because it's all about like self-positioning, that's all I want to do is just go upwind, downwind. So I spend a lot of time going upwind, locked into the harness. And so for me, I've gone full circle. So now, but I still recommend people using a leash at the very beginning, and then potentially taking it off when you're starting to pack it away.
It's a good tip.
And then maybe revisiting it later on. I do find having a leash onto the trailing edge is a great way of being able to sort your crap out. So I've done it a few times where I've been in like really big conditions, and my board's in one place, everything's everywhere, and you can just let go and then get onto the board, sort yourself out, have a rest, and then gather it in and off you go. So it does have its advantages, but it's one less thing for it to get caught on. And as you know, Parawing lines like gravitate, like they just will grab.
If you have a thought, it will tangle on that thought. It's horrible. It will tangle on anything. Look, I don't wear any of those things, but I got really used to the feeling of riding unhooked, and I like the simplicity of it. And
and I can understand that. Yeah.
The one thing that happened to me in this session with the OZONE, I was riding and a gust came through and it just pinged out of my hand, and it just went so high, and
Oh,
it was
really?
like 30 meters ahead of me.
Jeez.
And
Yeah, okay.
it landed with the bar upwind and the leading edge just out of the water, and I could not get to it swimming.
I've heard a couple of people.
And that happened to Dylan from the X Foils
That's right.
podcast, and he said that to me. I'm like, man, that's never going to happen, and it happened. I had him in my mind when I was swimming towards the Parawing. I'm like, Dylan, it happened to me as well. But eventually, it caught enough water that it sank, and I had a little bit of a leading edge still out, but I was completely wrecked because it took me 10 minutes of swimming.
Oh my
Downwind, really like I'm going to lose this thing to get to it.
Oh my God. God, if that had happened out in the open ocean, you'd be like, oh,
exactly.
Yeah.
So I think it's just worth that we didn't talk about safety at all. But if you are going out in the ocean and you're doing a downwind run and you're going to pack it up once, might not be the worst thing in the world to have some sort of connection to it, because you're not going to be redeploying it. You're not consistently. So once it's in the belt, it's not supposed to come out of the belt.
And then, interestingly, like the Foil Board Company, which is a British company, they do board bags and leashes and stuff. They're they help out with the charity. They donate all the time, and they are working on specific Parawing leashes. So they've got a board leash that doesn't have any coils in it.
Nice.
And they've got a Parawing leash again, which is like a bit of Dyneema that's the perfect length that doesn't really get in the way. And they're coming out with a harness line. They're really working on the Parawing accessories, which is exciting. So
yeah, everything will get better, right? The leashes will get better.
They will. Yeah. At the moment, I'm just making my own because there isn't much out there. So, but yeah, what I'm finding for the Parawing leash is I've got a bit of Dyneema with shock cord in it, and that is. It doesn't get in the way. Like, it's enough. It's a different color to everything else, and it's enough that it just connects on and off again. And so when I was using a leash, I was hearing that story, I might go back to it again.
Look, it happened to me. It was one of those freak things, and I'm out there on the Parawing all the time, and it never happened to me before. So
that's true. Yeah,
we'll see. Look, I'm conscious of time, mate. I don't want to keep you on for too much longer, but. Thank you so much, man, for coming on.
Well, thank you for having me on, mate.
Dude, I've been following you ever since I got into the parawinging as well. So I have to thank you for all the information you put out, because it helps so many people. And that's the whole point. Let's keep doing it. Let's get the information out there, and hopefully, parawinging just continues to grow.
Yeah. Oh, mate. I really appreciate you having me on and helping promote this this charity work that I'm doing. It'd be really, really good to see the auction do well and earn some money for them. So
absolutely,
as I said, like, just to end on it, that is going to be coming out very soon. So by the time this podcast comes out, it will be live. So go to Gav at Hydrofoil on YouTube, check it out, put a bid in, and hope you get one of the best foils around.
Yeah, man. As much as you want, man, tag me on stuff about like when it's rolling. Let's keep a bit of momentum. Let's do like some daily check-ins on how the auction's going. So
yeah, that'd be great.
Happy to help, man.
Legend. All right. Thanks, mate.
Cheers, Gav.